and blockchain exchange. And I asked if Chad could give us a keynote, and he agreed, which is great. So for those that don't know Chad, he has been in the space for quite some time. Again, very much a leading voice among the EOers. And Chad has a background in technology. He actually is has a very strong entrepreneurial background, has founded quite a lot of businesses, very impressively. And yeah, very much vested into blockchain. So I'm looking forward to the chat and to learn about it. The way we're going to do it is keynote style. So Chad is going to give a bit of a keynote of blockchain and why you should pay attention to it. Our actually secret title was DeFi or Die, and DeFi is decentralized finance, which stands for blockchain. We really believe that this is a technology that is highly disruptive and that will impact every single business very soon. So he's going to do a keynote, and please use the chat to compile your questions. And at the end, I will moderate the questions and we have a nice conversation together. So Chad, the floor is yours.
Hey, thanks, Adriana, for the intro. And I'm just glad to be here and talk to everybody about cryptocurrencies and what's going on these days with it. Recently, we saw an adjustment in the market, so I hope the group here is able to pick some up. I know I did. So I'll start a presentation. I'll show you what I know and what I've learned through the years of being in business in the blockchain world. Okay, you guys see my screen? All right, so we'll just start with the basics, and then we'll move into some more advanced stuff as we go. Adriana, are you letting people in from the waiting room? Okay, great. So simply, what is crypto? So I say it's fast money. It's a faster way to transact. It's instantaneous versus bank, where you have to, when you send a wire, you need to go through all these verifications, whereas everything with crypto happens on the blockchain pretty much instantly. So it's decentralized verification. So what this means is that network itself is a bunch of nodes, which are just computers on an ecosystem. So when a transaction takes place, that transaction is verified across a network of computers, and then all that data pushes back and then agrees like, okay, we have record of the transaction and we approve the transaction. So this happens way faster than our current centralized systems. At the end of the day, it's still a medium of exchange. It's a currency. And if it's accepted by one party to another, then we've established a currency. Once you get wide-scale acceptance of something like that, it'll start to stabilize over time and can actually become a stable currency. And just like anything else that we assign value, it only has the value because we provide it the value. And now, as of the past couple of years, we're seeing a much larger scale acceptance of Bitcoin, especially, and now some of the big names that are going through, like Ethereum and Solana. Now, one of the things with Bitcoin, and you hear a lot, is that there's a limited supply. And this is why it has such a unique value. And in a way, that's true. But the Bitcoin itself is infinitely divisible by itself, which is why we're actually able to transact in it, because you can only transact in one Bitcoin at the current market valuation of around $40,000. It doesn't really make sense as a feasible currency. Now, what we're seeing now, the market cap keeps increasing on this, and it's because the current demand going in is a lot of big funds are moving in. So finally, Wall Street was taking interest in it, and we saw just a wall of money moving in. And for one of the first times historically, we're seeing retail investors have an advantage over Wall Street, where they were in early. And so they have seen returns like no other. Are we still going to see that? I don't know if we're going to see it at the exponential growth rate that we've seen previous in the market, but I still think there's a lot of growth, and I personally am still investing. and some of the bigger names that are going to try to compete with Ethereum. We're also starting to see more regulation coming in, and to me, that's a positive sign, actually, that it's big enough that regulators are now paying attention. And so when that starts to happen, it's to me, it's acceptance of this as something that's here to stay. So Adrian, after we go through a couple of the main slides, we can open up the questions because it's going to be a lot that we're covering.
Sounds good. You tell me.
So euphoria in the market. Now, we just saw a massive run within crypto, which then we saw a big crash. Like most things in this world, it's cycles, and these things go historically repeat, and you have adjustment cycles. So I want to talk about one of these currencies which took off because of a big celebrity name kind of pushing it. So this is Dogecoin. Elon Musk started tweeting about this, and all of a sudden, a currency which had some sort of value but wasn't well known necessarily, became a worldwide name. And this is what you see happen in bubbles. You find projects like this that just start to blow up. So is there any merit in something like this alternative current coin called Doge? So if we look at the technicals, I brought up a chart here from right before Elon Musk went on to Saturday Night Live in May of 2021, just to look at how these things kind of approach. You hear a lot in the blockchain and crypto world is buy the rumor, sell the news. So here we have Dogecoin at 7 cents. And there's all this hype around, well, Elon Musk is going to go on Saturday Night Live and he's going to do this big positive push towards Dogecoin. And therefore it's going to skyrocket. So we see leading up right until where he aired on Saturday Night Live, it had a great run from 7 up to 74 cents. And selling before he went on would have been the right move, because of course it did not go as expected, and the rumor had already been worked into the price, and then it started to adjust down. So is there merit in a project like this? I'm not invested in it, but it did get brand recognition. And if your company or my company or product received that level of recognition tomorrow, what would happen in the long term? If we can convert that into something real and stable, it would have value. And so that's the only reason I even bring up Dogecoin. Okay, so life cycle of a new coin. So this is from beginning stage to the end of if you're creating a currency within the blockchain structure, is kind of what it looks like. So first, it's writing a bunch of code, right? That is your smart contract and the formation thereof. Then the next step is called a liquidity pool. So this currency has no real value at this point until people start accepting it as value. So you create what's called a liquidity pool, and you provide liquidity to that coin market. And how that typically works is you'll take a currency that is accepted, such as Bitcoin and Ethereum, and you will pair it with this new currency, let's say ABC coin. And because you're taking something that has value and matching it to something that doesn't have value and putting it in a pool, you're providing liquidity to that pool. And we'll talk a little bit later about why somebody would even do that. You then have to do a lot of marketing, just like with any brand, and push it out, social mediums, things like that. And then it goes on to the next step is the automated market makers, which are called the swaps. You'll see like the main ones like Uniswap, SushiSwap, and this is what makes the market. The next stage is you get onto some of these main exchanges, and then you can provide staking. So what staking is it's locking up your coin for a period of time, and therefore you collect interest within that coin. And by doing so, it provides more stability to the currency, and then it can start to grow. And then you'll see a lot of these platforms that now offer loans. loans for your Bitcoin, loans for your Ethereum. And that's really final stage. Once loans are being offered on your currency, it's made its mark. So if there's any questions now before we start, I'm going to dig right into the detail of each of these, but happy to open up the floor if there's a couple things.
I actually have a question. Maybe I can do my own question here. So when you look at recent projects, right? It as you say is a lot of work to make something really be successful. What do you think is the biggest barrier from this whole suite of activity?
So, like I won't invest in the early projects. They need to get to the point of true market acceptance and have a solid market cap before it's even considered. It's like any of our companies when you have a big VC backing the project, and then you have all these big names coming behind it and starting to support it, then it's a real project. So it's like anything else in this world's relationships to get to that point, and building a really good product in addition to that. People and product, just like when we invest in an angel startup. But like in crypto, I just won't even touch it until it's already become a big name. Like Solana, like now it's like the gem right now that everybody's talking about. And they just in Miami, they just you saw Adriana when you were here, they have the FTX Arena. So the Miami Heat, where they play, they rebranded it as the FTX Arena because that's the sponsor. FTX is the big exchange that's actually powered by Solana. When that happened, that day I put a bunch of money into Solana. And Solana is, I still feel it's at its infancy in a way. So like it went up to it hit a top of about 220. And then on this most recent correction, it dropped to like 82. And like, I don't need to have 100x on my money. If I can get 5x within a couple of years, that's better than anything else you'll see in any other asset class. So, that's what I invested in.
Awesome. I was going to ask you what's my next question you already answered, which is what's the product you're excited about? But maybe besides Solana, is there anyone that is more, to your point, to the level of rumors, didn't hit the news quite yet, that you feel it is a really interesting project and why?
Yeah, I'll show you a list I have here, but they pretty much, anything I've touched has made it into the news, but there's still a lot of growth potential. So let's see.
Maybe still on your old charts, because that's a question I get all the time. Staking is quite a new concept, right?
Yes.
Maybe you want to just give. I don't know if you're going to go there. Are you going to go there now?
Yeah, you know what? I'll just go right into
cool.
staking. Yeah.
All right, awesome. Then keep going, please.
Yeah. Okay. So staking. So you either lock up. So I own some Ethereum, and the platform, the exchange Kraken, wants more Ethereum on their network. And so what they start saying is, hey, if you put Ethereum on our network, we will pay you an interest rate. And if you lock it up for a period of time, we pay you even higher interest rate, because they want to collect as much of the asset as possible. Because if you think about a conventional bank, right, they're trying to collect reserves and loans. And that's kind of what's happening with these exchanges. They are banks in a way, although it's decentralized banks. So if you look here at, this is Kraken. This is Kraken staking rewards as of very recent. So the ones they're paying the highest rewards on, I believe they're getting incentivized to do so by the provider, which is not a bad idea to give stability. So Ethereum, 4 to 7%, which still compared to what banks pay is not bad at all. But right now, if you stake your Ethereum with Kraken, it's locked up until Ethereum 2.0 is released. So personally, that's not something I want to do. I like being able to move in and out on these really high peaks and then buy back in. Whereas like Cosmos, 7.5%. And then some of these ones that they're incentivized to do so, they just pay some really high rewards. Like Kava is making 23%. Polkadot, I actually do stake it with them. It's one of the highest rewards that you can get on Polkadot, and it is one of my holdings. What I've actually structured is that I invest in technology. That's how my companies have always been, and that's exactly how I invest in blockchain. So Ethereum is a network of software that's being built at a rate like nothing we've ever seen before. But because of that, their network is being overwhelmed. And so the processing fees, or they're called gas fees to transact, are extraordinary and not feasible for a lot of business. And so you have competitors such as Polkadot, Solana, Matic, who are trying to come in with better technology and lower processing fees. And that's where they're actually gaining traction. So like Solana is growing at an insane rate, and I think they're handling more transactions than pretty much anyone else on the ecosystem. And even with doing that, they're really not crashing for very long. They were down, it was a couple weeks ago, they were down for like 24 hours, but they got the system back up. And that's kind of expected when you're going through hyper growth like this and you're building, it's all a big software ecosystem. So Solana here, the staking is 6.5%. Now, this is something I recently started using. It's called Nexo. So it's been the best rewards I've seen. But like, be wary of this when you go on it. Their advertised rewards are all up to interest rates as opposed to fixed. So if you stake, like I saw it the other day, like Solana, they pay 6%, but in reality, they're only paying 4%. And then if you own some of their own coin, they'll give you an extra percent. And then if you lock it up, let's say for a period of 3 months, then they'll give you an extra percent. So you just got to look at it before moving the funds over to their structure and their platform, because it does cost the transaction fees, the gas fees, whenever you move your currencies from one platform to another. But yeah, it's great if you're a long-term holder on particular projects and you don't see them go anywhere and you want to see them out for the next 3-5 years, to earn something like 10% interest rate is great. Something that just became really popular in the it's called GameFi, gaming finance, is Axie Infinity. And because it's so popular now, you see somebody like Nexo paying a crazy promotional reward because they want to get it onto their platform. So this is like a 34% interest rate they're advertising, and they're paying it until like mid-March. And the idea is for them to pull as much onto their platform as possible. Some of the exchanges. So there's more and more popping up all the time now. So you have Kraken, Gate.io, BlockFi, Celsius, Binance, Coinbase, FTX, SRM, and Nexo. These are pretty current transaction fees when I was trying to move some stuff around the other day. So I did find that Coinbase has the lowest transaction fees at 0.4% as a fee to buy. And then moving it off the platform, it wasn't that costly either. So I was moving from the platform to a cold ledger storage wallet. So it's up to you, what preference you have. I know FTX, I've heard a lot of good things. Not one I have an account on. I have like 6 or 7 of these as accounts these days. Okay, so liquidity pools, which I mentioned briefly before. So this is actually Uniswap, one of the automated market makers. And you can see they have these different pools of pairings here. So this one is USD and Ethereum. And if you put your money in the pool, you get some sort of interest rate. These are not strong interest rates because they're pretty low risk pools. You're pairing 2 really strong coins together, and Ethereum doesn't necessarily need as much liquidity as some of these newer projects do. And then this is the pool in more depth here. You can see people adding and removing because it's all being hashed here. So this is the token amount that went in, this is the token amount that went out. This is the total value of this particular pool and the amount of fees that are being transacted in the pool. And this is providing liquidity to Ethereum. Marketing, pretty self-explanatory, social media, news releases, influencers, community chats. And then, so automated market makers, they're a class of decentralized exchanges that allow the assets to be traded completely automatically without permission. Whereas in like the stock market, you have actual market makers who are providing the transactions. And so like some of the big projects are Uni, Pancake Swap, Sushi Swap, and Curve.io. And I mean, these names are absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I don't know when else we saw businesses being called Pancake Swap and Sushi Swap, but this is what happens when you have a bunch of 20-year-old programmers building an entire system that's running, going to run our entire software world. You let them come up with the branding, and that's what they come up with. It's unicorns and pancakes. And then some of the loan platforms that have really grown, BlockFi, Gemini, and Celsius, to where they provide you a loan on your Bitcoin or Ethereum. And it's just a conventional business model. Yet they were smart enough to see that, hey, let's just take conventional banking and do it on the blockchain. So let's say you have 10 Bitcoin, you need a USD loan. They will give you let's say a 1/3 value loan to value of your Bitcoin, and you pay back the interest. And if somehow Bitcoin drops at an insane rate, which sometimes it does, they will give you the chance to pay back the loan because your Bitcoin is or add more Bitcoin because your loan to value ratio is no longer accurate to their standards. And if not, they will just liquidate your Bitcoin. So not much risk to the loan providers. It's a good business for them. And if you're trying to continue to hold your cryptocurrencies and you need some quick cash for other purposes, it's always an option. All right, Adrian, anything on that before we go next?
I think let's keep going and then do a final wrap at the end.
Okay. So security, definitely a big question in blockchain. You're putting a lot of capital into this, and it's all being stored on the internet. So how do you keep it secure? So there's a few things. So you have your wallets. You have cold wallets, which is essentially like a USB stick. And then you can store it on exchanges, and there's all these different ways. So I'll tell you my approach is I don't keep it in one place. It is stored across multiple wallets, multiple cold storage ledgers, and multiple exchanges. So that if I ever was hacked, it'd be very hard to get everything I have. Is this a complete pain to do? Yes. You have to have it across 10 places and keep track of it all. But I prefer to have the soundness of mind in knowing that if I was hacked, that only one of them would potentially be lost. So some wallets that are out there, you can just use like a Coinbase wallet. You can also store it on the exchange. You can do Kraken, Nexo, FTX. You can just keep it on the exchanges if you want. By doing that, you also have more availability if you want to trade it. Some other big names are Exodus and Trust Wallet. And then MetaMask is, although it's not necessarily the best wallet, it has like an easy plugin on Google Chrome, and you can easily connect to a lot of these platforms. And as far as cold storage, the two main names out there are Ledger versus Trezor. I like the Ledger X. I found good utility with it so far, but be aware if that you're trying to stake with it. It's the in-house apps they have on the Ledger are not great. So you will need to pair your Ledger up with some of these better staking rewards places like a Kraken or an Nexo, and move your currencies onto them in order to get those good rewards. And there's so much to learn about this. Even I, to this day, there's something new every day. You will never catch it all, to where like you can actually pair your Ledger with something like Solana's native wallet, because everybody has native wallets also that they create for their own. And Solana will then pay you a decent reward. The last I looked, it was like 6.7%. Okay, so portfolio building. So I'd say if you look at crypto as a speculation. 10% is a conservative amount of your investment capital to put into it. If you really believe in it more long-term, Bitcoin and Ethereum, and you want to put more than that, Bitcoin and Ethereum are the largest, and still you'll get good returns. In the long term, you're still going to get good returns on Bitcoin and Ethereum. Are you going to 1000x like you used to be able to? I don't think so. But if you want to prevent the inflation that's occurring on world currencies right now, and have something that's more of a store of value, Bitcoin and Ethereum are a good option. I had said 10% for the longest time, and that I wouldn't personally go above it. I finally changed my mind. So I finally moved myself up to about 20% exposure to the blockchain market. But then I'm diversified in that I have commodities such as gold, silver, things that have always been a long-term store of value, and businesses that have cash flow and things like that as part of my investment strategy. So to manage it, especially for taxes, you need to have a good record of when you transact. So I use TradingView, and I'll show you how. There's also some other apps like CoinStats. FTX does an okay job too of helping you track all your transactions. So this is to what you were asking before, Adriana. What am I invested in? So these are my main holdings. So I'm going for anybody who can compete with Ethereum. And to me, those main names right now are Solana, Polygon or Matic, Polkadot, Chainlink, Cardano. Uniswap is one of the automated market makers, so I want exposure to one of those. And then Luna and Phantom, because Phantom is being used. It's like one of the new names in big DeFi projects, and there's a lot happening there. And I saw a great chart the other day. It showed what exposure each of these currencies has to each of the different industries, and Solana was spread across the board on DeFi, gaming, all these different industries, and has like pretty steady exposure across them all. And when you see that much utility occurring on a platform, it gives it more merit that it can be a long-term product. So these are pretty much organized by the positions I have in them from top to bottom. And then the two at the bottom, Luna and Phantom, I just started moving into, and I need to see more proof that they're going to last before I put more in. Polkadot it's more of a centralized platform, which kind of is the opposite of what you would think with blockchain and crypto, but they're trying something different, so I appreciate it, and it gives me more diversity in my investment, so that's why I go into somebody like them. But still Bitcoin and Ethereum. If you are a more conservative investor, those are your two. Bitcoin is looked at like the gold standard, right? It's the currency that was first, and it has that first mover advantage. And Ethereum is the largest technology ecosystem. Once again, first mover advantage. Will they get beat out by something faster and shinier and newer? They might. All right, Adriana, this is, I'll start pulling up a bunch of links and screen sharing on this. If we want to, we'll go through everything at the end on the questions. But so first thing, the first terminology is altcoins. So we went over some of them just now. So some other ones are like Atom, Kava. We saw that was getting that really good reward on Kraken. These are some of the other swaps. You have Pancake Swap, Sushi Swap. Synthetics was one of those that early on was a great play, and now it's fallen out of favor. So like blockchain moves quickly. You have to be aware of that. Avalanche also it's a decent project, but I've chosen Solana over them. So There's a few more things here that I want to explore in depth. Some NFTs are now a very popular topic. And I actually am pretty heavily invested in a business in the space. And we'll go over that. Accepting cryptocurrency in your businesses, and then also yield farming. So yield farming is something that's extremely interesting. So this plays around with liquidity pools. So when a new coin launches, such as this one is called Sandman. Brand new coin called Sandman. Early release, what they do is they create what's called a farm. So a farm is, and they all look the same. It's with different graphics. So deposit and earn with Sandman. So what they do is they have these different pairings on the platform where, like, okay, give us some of your USD coin and pair it with Sandman. And what we're going to do is pay you a massive interest rate. We're going to pay you a 10,000% interest rate on Sandman because we're paying it to you in Sandman. And what you're doing is you're putting your US dollars or US stablecoin or your Ethereum at risk, because if this farm falls apart or Sandman becomes worthless, you have nothing and you have lost what you added to the pool. But these projects, I have a good friend who's actually about to launch a hedge fund with my help, who has been doing this with his own money for a few years now. And he's become very skilled at going in and out of these farms and collecting yield. And then whatever he harvests in that other coin converts it into something stable instantly. And he makes about an average of 1% return on his money per day. So after several months of me trying to convince him to, like, hey, I know you don't ever need any money. You have more than anybody could ever need, but can you manage a few other people's? And if I help you structure, will you do it? And finally he agreed to it. So, because I wanted my money in yield farming forever, but the amount of time that it takes to manage this and manage it and make sure you're going to the right projects and pulling it out in time is something that I do not have the luxury of doing. And so here you have it's a Viking version of the same thing. And these are some of the pairs. So you can see here the Viking one. So S Viking, if you put up your Binance USD and you input it into this and connect your wallet, you can earn 107,000%. And in 2 days, that's not bad. You know, that daily, you break it up on the daily, it's still a really high interest rate. So you harvest this Saviki that you've earned, and you hold it if you believe that Saviki is going to be the next big thing, which is impossible to know, or you just convert into something else before it disappears. And so, like, here's another one, comparing Saviki with BNB. Here's pairing Sandman with Binance USD. And there's like 2 or 3 new of these farms every day. And there's a few sites out there you can go to that'll kind of tell you when there's new launches and things like that. So accepting cryptocurrency as a payment. So if you want a way to get into this without putting a lot of your own money, not a bad idea to accept it. I mean, we're all EOers here, we all have businesses, and the cost of goods that you're selling to a consumer, that margin that you make, why not just collect it in the form of Bitcoin or Ethereum? And that gives you a much lower cost into this stuff than if you bought it on the open market. So these are some of the providers. I'm currently in the process of implementing BitPay and Coinbase Commerce into all of my companies. So CoinGate is one, you have BitPay, Coinbase Commerce is good. You have Now Payments and PayPal. And then also you can really just set it up yourself. The whole point of crypto is that you can just create a wallet and provide your customers an address to send the currency to, and then just keep record of it. So if you're dealing a lot of small transactions, maybe it's nice to have a software provider like a BitPay. But if you have a higher ticket product, let's say you have something that you're selling for $1,500 and you want to manually track when your customer pays you, you can just do that through setting up your own wallet and seeing that the transaction came in, and providing some instructions on how to do it and how to pay you in it. It's a lot easier than you think. Okay, so NFTs. So I'm going to show you a few different sites here and some things that have really popped off in the NFT space. So some of the things I referenced before, TradingView. So let's see here. The charting really helps. And I haven't updated my most recent entries, but I'll put entries and exits within the charts to help me keep track of everything. And then you can also look at all the projects in one place here. Like Chainlink and Cardano. This is Kraken and Exo, which we looked at. And then here's NFTs. So NFTs have really been going crazy, especially this past year. And so it's digital art, right? It's art that is being minted on the blockchain. And there's different copies being minted. And it's a way for artists to display their work in a more wide exposure way. And they also can work in royalties into the art, which is something that in the current art world, the standard art world, you really don't get a royalty on if a collector bought your piece for $100 and then sold it for $1 million 10 years later. And the reason that OpenSea and platforms like this and NFTs are great is that it lets the artist actually capitalize on the resales. And that's also why I think it's getting a lot of traction in the art world and then eventually in the music world. So this is Beeple. You may have heard in the news, like he had a piece that went for 69 million. And this is just the guy who's been making art at his home, one piece a day for 15 years. And he had enough of an eye to realize he needs to start putting stuff onto platforms like OpenSea. And now he has done very well for himself. So this is like something he released the other day. And then if you look at his Instagram is the best place to see his stuff. So he does, and now that he's gotten such wide scale publicity on his NFTs, he has no problem with going with some stuff that's maybe a little more political and controversial. So, and the stuff's kind of funny, really. I personally appreciate it. I don't own any Beeples, but the stuff's pretty cool. So this is something like, I know he has a lot of like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, all types of funny and controversial artwork. And he's done well by putting it on the blockchain. So if you look at OpenSea and you look at how one of these works, so you can actually see here, you can see when it's minted and you can see when it's transferred, if there's any transactions. I'm going to find one that you can actually see all the transactions like taking place here. Okay, so this was a recent release I was actually paying attention to. So if you see here, this was minted on the blockchain. I believe it was about 5 or 6 days ago. And it was minted, 80 copies were minted. And within 5 days, it sold. Let's see how many copies have sold so far. It sold 36 copies for, originally the price is 0.88. And then you had people come in here and start trying to resell the product right away. And there's a lot of money being made in flipping NFTs. And because it's a ledger, right, where you can see every transaction that's taking place, you can see who sold it, who was transferred to, and then when it was relisted here. So it was 0.88 ETH, and then relisted for 2.9 ETH. And now there's opportunity to make money if they can actually resell these. So OpenSea is actually built on the Ethereum blockchain. So it's very costly to transact because of that. So then you have competitors coming into the NFT space like Solano with Solart, and it's much lower to transact. So I look at it that OpenSea is essentially like eBay of NFTs, and maybe moving. We don't really know who's going to be the Amazon of NFTs yet, because there's still competition in the market. But that would also be interesting to see on which of these platforms really becomes the winner. And then if you look at their sites like this called Rarity Tools, and this is how you get your NFTs marketed. You pay to put them on places like this, to where they're taking these pieces of digital art and they're ranking them by rarity, as if this means anything. And then they'll go on to these and they'll give you aspect ratings. So this is a special edition because this aspect of it is legend, and legend gives it a score of an extra 800 points. And therefore this NFT is worth way more than the other pieces of, you know, digital art that we just created with code and put on the platform and sold for millions of dollars. So I don't know where this market is going to land with the NFT stuff, but it's really an interesting space to watch grow right now. And so the company that I invested in was and a few other EOers. It's called there's two brands. One of them's Bubble Lab and it's Launch Collective. And what they do is they're partnering with influencers and then building products for the influencers and then selling them to their audiences, which I thought was a pretty interesting way to approach it. And that they're essentially a Web3 marketing company, and that they're using the NFTs to add utility, such as like, hey, you get access to our community, our subscription, and they're selling to controlled and captive audiences, which I really like. So, Adriana, I can go on forever, but if you want to open it up to questions.
Yeah, I think we're kind of 15 minutes to go, and there are quite a few questions. So, question from Yela. What is your experience with loans in crypto? Which people use this normally?
So the platforms to use them, like BlockFi is pretty good if you wanted to get a loan. So, and the people that are normally using them are the people that believe in Bitcoin for the really long term and that they do not want to get rid of any of their holdings. And so they rather put it up against and take loans against their Bitcoin than have to actually sell it.
Yeah, I think, Chad, maybe it's important to say how much you actually need to put in, because that's a bit different than a normal loan in the bank, right? The collateral you need to put in is quite high.
Yeah, so let me just pull up BlockFi and we can take a look at the current loan rates. But I don't think there's a minimum here. I think you could put any amount.
It's more like the ratio of collateral from what you get out. What I heard was like 70-30. You had to put 70% to get 30%.
Yeah. Here it is. Collateral amount based on a 50% loan to value ratio. So they've adjusted it. Early in the early days, they didn't do a 50% loan to value, and now they do.
Cool. And to your point, is people that actually want to keep investing in this space, keep the assets, and just get additional to leverage and speculate and pay it back, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you take what you need, and then I mean, there's some people are storing 80-90% of their wealth in blockchain because that's where their wealth is made. To me, that's really risky. No matter how much I believe in an asset class, I would never do that. But some do, and hey, they might be right, and they might get a big win over the next 5-10 years. And so this is an option for them to get some availability to use for other things.
Mm-hmm. Another question was, are you active in many pools? With what part of your portfolio, more or less?
With liquidity pools?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't keep my my crypto in liquidity pools. I just keep it in staking. I don't have the time to pay attention enough to stay in the pools and watch them because they do change a lot and the interest rates change. So I know that these exchanges will give fixed rewards, and I can earn 8 to 10% staking reward, and then also just get what the growth of the projects themselves through just holding them. So for me, that's how I prefer it. And then somebody who's really good at doing the liquidity pools, such as my buddy who's launching the fund, like I will give him money to invest for me because I know he's going to put the attention into it. If I had the time to spend, 12 hours a day sitting in front of a computer like him, then I would do pools.
So you all need good friends.
Yeah.
Okay, there was a question about the fees. So what would be the exchange with the best fees?
So right now I found it's Coinbase. It's only 0.4% transaction fee. And whereas Kraken's about 2%. And
I think somebody mentioned that Kraken fees were actually 0.2. That is also not my experience, Kraken of 0.2.
Yeah, it changes over time based on gas fees at the moment. So what I did is, these might not be the fixed amounts, but I did all of these transactions at the same exact time. And therefore I was able to have a comparison and see that Coinbase is just the winner overall. Nexo claims they provide, it's a 0% fee, and that's their big advertising. But then when you go and you look at the swap from just something from like US stablecoin to Ethereum, you're seeing an impermanent loss of like 0.9%. So they say, oh, it's just because we go and buy on this exchange. I opened a whole chat with them to ask about this, but in reality, it's 0.9%.
Cool, thanks. Still a question on the fees. Are these fees to deposit your funds or to trade pairs?
These were just to buy outright purchase something like Ethereum.
Cool. And another question completely different about payments. Are you aware of any platform that accepts payments in crypto in Europe? So a bit like the PayPal equivalent.
Yeah, look at BitPay. I'm pretty sure BitPay isn't just in the US, but I mean, I haven't had to do that yet, so can't speak from experience on this one.
Yeah, cool. And I think it was credit card that or MasterCard that announced a collaboration, right? That they're gonna open for payments in crypto.
Like Visa is partnered with BlockFi, and there's a lot of, I mean, they realize they have to do this, and especially now that we saw Square rebrand as Block, right? There's this space is payment processors are starting to come to reality, like, hey, if we don't adapt, we will die, and they're moving towards the trend as opposed to away from it. And the people who fight against it to the very end, those companies won't be here.
Totally.
Much longer.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Hey, I have one question actually for me. Which tools do you recommend to use to track your portfolio? I saw your beautiful chart. Where do you get to?
Yeah, that's
it?
called trading. That's called TradingView. So TradingView is really good. I also built something internally that's like on Google Sheets. That's a really nice way to track it. I'll see if I can I'll see if there's a way to share that.
Open source. That would be amazing.
Yeah, but
awesome.
I really like TradingView in that it's it lets me chart, and it also I can put little notes and arrows on it, so of the transactions that are taking place, and it helps me stay consistent with my trades.
Okay, we have two actually really interesting questions on the chat. Some people think that crypto is just a hype and will be too much regulated to survive. What are your thoughts about it?
So if I don't know if anybody saw, Kathy Woods just did a projection. So Kathy Woods is the big hedge fund manager that runs the ARK funds, and she's picking a lot of the big technology names. So the fund definitely took a big hit, but she has a lot of quants or quantitative analysis people on her team. So she did a projection over 10 years on what Bitcoin and Ethereum would look at, and it was a lot of hard data and analysis they did, and it showed that Bitcoin could go 32x within 10 years, and then Ethereum would go about 69x within 10 years. So according to her metrics, we're still at the beginning. I'm looking for some solid gains this year. I put a lot in. Finally, see, it's hard to predict crypto, and it's very volatile. So it's hard to know when the bottom is, but I didn't notate it yet, but I took my largest position ever here at the 2,500 mark on Ethereum, and I did the same on all my others. So if you can be patient and when it hits a big top, know that when it hits a new high, it will adjust back down and correct. Be patient, and when you really feel it's bottomed out, put a little bit of money in. And then when it goes lower than you thought, you put a little more. Because you can't really predict price. So it's you'll see me entering like when I think, oh, it's about to turn up, and then I enter at 3,400 and then it goes to 2,500. And I know that's why I only put in a little bit at 34. And then when I hit 25, I felt way more confident in putting in a much larger chunk of money in dollar cost average.
So I guess you see this indeed as a long-term investment, and certainly something that is going to survive and continue to grow.
Yeah.
I have a question related to that, because we saw a recent dip, right? To your point, like a market correction recently, and now things seem to be hitting up again. Why do you think that what drives those corrections?
I just say everything is cyclical. Like when you hit a new high, the market then needs to test if this is realistic. So Ethereum hits, a new high, $4,800, and then it's like, whoa, this is a really new point for us, right? So then it starts going back to test resistance points. So that's what my blue lines are. So it first went to a resistance at 4,000, then broke the next at 3,600, and then broke the next at 3,000. But then if I was able to look at this in a larger view here, it tests a new level and then it starts to climb again. So it got down here to about 2,400, but it didn't return to the levels of like 1,700. So the market is testing the price. It's now somewhat saying, okay, well, we have a new floor, right? Now 2,400 is the bottom. And now let's start to climb again and test if we can break to a new high. And then if it does move, it could move sideways for a while, or it could move straight up again and break to another new high. And guess what happens? When it hits that new high, it will once again correct. And then it'll test and see, oh, is 3,000 a floor now as opposed to 2,400? And you'll see this in markets throughout history. It's a very cyclical thing. And if there's a bad news release or something, it'll push it'll push it to a new floor or a new low. But other than that, this is pretty much how it works. If you look at it
another question I get quite often is people that want to create this not as a true long-term investment, but to want to maybe capitalize and then buy an asset with fiat, right? What's your experience of taking money out of the system and back into fiat?
So, I mean, I do it when it hits a top. I mean, it's very hard to predict, but I start selling into what I believe it's moving too fast. So when it's moving too fast, I will start to sell up into the uptrend, while still keeping a little bit, so I feel I have exposure, and then hold it in something like a stable coin and wait for a new bottom and then put it back in. Now this requires more attention than just buying and holding, but if you have a long-term view on it and you believe in something, that's how I do all my trading. Like if I have a 3 or 5 year outlook, I don't mind the ebbs and valleys, the valleys and peaks of trading, because I can go down 25% in a week and not even flinch, because I believe in it over the next few years.
Cool. I have another really interesting question that I get a lot of time, which is about the sustainability side of crypto. So the question is from Wimmer. The Ethereum NFT transactions still take a lot of energy. However, there are far more greener alternatives like Tezos. One of the most interesting things right now is generative art, and the Ethereum platform Artblocks does it. So actually two comments. So first comment, sustainability. Can you tell a bit more about sustainability in the crypto space?
In NFT specifically, or just across
Just,
the?
I would say, like, Ethereum got a lot of bad press that it was indeed a very unclean chain, and maybe you want to elaborate on that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a massive software ecosystem, right? That started having more transactions on it than it was ever built to handle. So now you have developers working day and night to fix that and build a new version of it. So I've always had software companies, and actually my younger brother, his full-time core business is a Web3 software development agency. And when your platform gets overwhelmed, you have to make updates to support the new volume. And that's what Ethereum is doing. That's why Ethereum 2.0 is coming out. But the longer it takes them, the more there's room for competition, like Solana, to come in. But will they get it up and running? Yeah, I have no doubt they will. And therefore it is sustainable, as it is, even with a business, right? If your business overnight grows 3-4x, you hit a bottleneck somewhere, and you have to now fix everything to try and relieve it. So that's what's happening here, but I do believe it's sustainable.
Yeah, I can add to that. So Ethereum is based on what is called proof of work, which requires a lot of computer capacity. If you go deeper down into the rabbit hole, what research found out is that the mining is primarily done on areas that actually use green energy for that mining. So it's much less worse than what the news were hit. But next to Ethereum, there are other chains indeed that developed a new technology, which is proof of stake, which requires much less capacity from the network. And these, like Tezos, Flow, the layer 2s, they're all based on this new technology, which again, when it comes to energy consumption, is not something that we should be worried about necessarily. So the end, Ethereum has been working for quite some time in the version number 2, which is supposed to be based on the proof of stake concept, which again would be more sustainable. They say they will release this year, right? But they said they would release last year, so we're still waiting. Cool. And I love the other comment, Wimmer, thanks for that. Indeed, there are so many interesting use of blockchain, and one of them is generative art. Take a look at the link of art blogs, is super cool. But I think when it comes to technology and utility, we're just really at the tip of the iceberg. What the NFTs, which is a space that I'm in professionally and also personally, it is a seriously disruptive new technology where you can start storing information in piece of basically digital creations. So right now, what we see as just digital art is actually much bigger. Is a big depository of content that can grow over time, and it's super exciting.
You're even seeing virtual real estate. So like Sandbox is a big project in that, and trying to build the metaverse. And so what they've done is they've taken their plots of land here and turned them into NFTs as a way to transact and buy the virtual land. They've done very well in seeing this as a way to sell their product. And then you can see here, like, you can buy these different plots. And it also makes it to where you're more liquid. If you do already own one early on, you can now resell it.
Yeah, exactly. Sandbox is a really cool project because it's a platform that was launched and funded. Well, was it funded even before it was launched? And they had 500,000 users registered before the product was even launched. And I don't know the amount of revenue they made, but they made a significant amount of revenue by selling the plots, indeed. And then now people need to build it. So it's not that you get the plots with your building on top of it. No, you just get the land, and you need then to make the development of the land yourself. That is super cool. One question for you. Do you follow some experts and influencers on YouTube? So also maybe broader than that, what kind of source of information for the people that want to go into the rabbit hole further would you recommend, Chad?
I like, there's a couple I watch pretty steadily. I like James from Invest Answers. He's got some good content. And then also, I mean, Ben from Into the Cryptoverse. Ben's a mathematician and James is like a long-term trader, and so they try to be very data driven, which I appreciate. And those are my two main ones.
Awesome. Would you mind putting the names in the chat so that people
Yeah.
can have access to that? Great. I think our time is up, right? We booked until 5 o'clock. Or am I wrong?
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah. Do we have time for one final question, one final burning question? Anybody?
Yeah, of course.
One final one.
I wondered if you're still doing also the mining project. Is that something that was related to you? A project to create to invest in Bitcoin mining?
Yeah. So yeah, I was helping. There's an EOer here in South Florida who has a big computer equipment company, and came across him. He's essentially been sourcing all of the mining equipment for this big Bitcoin miner, and so we've been discussing putting a deal together to finance some of the equipment. So if you're in that chat, I mean, I'm gonna let everybody know how it's progressing. I was holding back a little bit on it because I want to make sure Bitcoin mining is not too competitive before kind of arranging a fund around it. So I've been doing a lot of research on my own.
Cool. That is the thing. Do your own research, right? That's what everybody says. Do your own research. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, Chad, for the time and for the chat. It feels like it indeed is much deeper than we were able to cover in 1 hour. Well, thanks for the inspiration. And if you could